Chapter 1. The Frozen Edge of Despair. The planet Kryn 9 was not a place one chose lightly, even by the daring standards of the Galactic Accord's most intrepid explorers. Situated on the frigid outer rim of the Andari sector, Kryn 9 was a frozen wasteland where the sun was a distant, dim ember that barely pierced the thick veil of clouds and ice storms. It was a world where temperatures plunged far below anything encountered by most species in the galaxy, where the air was thin, the winds screamed like banshees through jagged ice spires, and every breath risked freezing the lungs. The native ecosystem was harsh to the point of cruelty. Beneath the surface lay vast frozen lakes, encased in thick ice several meters deep, over which swirling blizzards roared incessantly. Life clung stubbornly to existence in the shadow of towering glaciers and in geothermal vents where heat struggled to defy the planet's frigid grip. To any rational observer, Kryn 9 was a death sentence, a world where only the strongest or most adapted could endure. The Galactic Accord's scientific outpost, established in the region called the Frostlands, was a bastion of technology and cooperation. Built from modular alloys and protected by adaptive shields, it was staffed by a coalition of species united in the pursuit of knowledge: xenobiologists eager to study the planet's tenacious life forms, climatologists monitoring its extreme weather, and exobiologists searching for clues about its ancient geological past. Yet none had anticipated the sudden plummet in temperature that shattered all previous records and threw their finely tuned systems into chaos. The outpost's thermal regulators screamed in protest as frost accumulated on sensor lenses, and the power grid struggled to maintain warmth in the rapidly dropping mercury. Alarm systems lit up the control center like a starship under siege. Panic rippled through the multi-species crew, not for the cold itself, which they had trained and prepared for, but because this was something different, something primal and terrifying. The planet was turning colder, faster, and deeper than any algorithm had predicted. The very laws of Kryn 9's climate seemed to warp before their eyes. In the midst of this growing chaos stood Yannick Holloway, the lone human on the station, a Deathworlder, born on a planet so savage that his survival was the stuff of legend. Yannick's body and mind were honed by countless years of enduring heat, cold, starvation, and constant threat conditions so extreme that most humans shattered under them. But he endured and thrived. The others watched him with a mixture of awe and unease. Where they clung to their advanced suits and environmental technologies, Yannick wore only a thin layer of insulated fabric beneath a windbreaker, his hands bare and scarred from years of exposure to alien climates. He moved with a purposeful calm that belied the raging storm outside. When the station's communication arrays failed, cutting them off from all external contact, and the generators faltered, casting long shadows over their dwindling warmth, the panic among the alien scientists and engineers became palpable. Talks of evacuation, retreat, rationing, and even abandonment spread like wildfire through the corridors. But Yannick saw another way. He stood before the massive observation window overlooking the great frozen lake that stretched like a silver mirror beneath the swirling blizzard. Its surface was an unbroken sheet of ice, thick enough to support the weight of a starship. Yet, Yannick knew, beneath that frozen barrier life stirred ancient fish, toughened and evolved to survive where others could not, slipping silently through pockets of liquid warmed by the planet's deep geothermal heart. The lake was not merely a frozen wasteland. It was a sanctuary, a lifeline. As the outpost's food stores dwindled and tensions mounted, Yannick made a decision that bewildered his colleagues. Without waiting for permission or preparation, he gathered only the barest survival gear and stepped out into the storm, into the cold that had broken every system and shattered the resolve of those around him. The freezing wind tore at his skin, each breath a razor cutting into his lungs, but Yannick pressed forward with a determination born of decades surviving death worlds. His bare hands, blistered and cracked, were almost numb as he searched the ice for weak spots, fractures, slivers of thinning ice where he might reach through to the water below. The alien scientists watched in horror and fascination from behind thick glass, their voices lost in the roar of the storm. None could comprehend how a single human could dare to defy such overwhelming odds, plunging his hands into a frozen abyss that would freeze any other being solid in seconds. Yet Yannick moved with the grace of a hunter long acquainted with pain, feeling for subtle vibrations, listening to the creaks and groans of the ice like a living thing, tapping into instincts older than recorded history. Hours passed. The storm did not relent. The cold clawed deeper. Yannick's muscles ached and trembled, his fingers raw and bleeding, but still he reached, still he pulled. Then, suddenly, he felt it. The faintest movement beneath the ice, a shiver of life. With practiced strength, he tore a ragged hole in the frozen surface, breaking through to the dark, icy water beneath. The temperature shock was brutal. Pain shot up his arms like wildfire, but Yannick's grip was iron. Slowly, carefully, he began to fish bare hands plunging repeatedly into the frigid depths, bringing up slick, shimmering fish that twisted and writhed in the cold air. To the aliens, this was madness. To Yannick, it was survival, a testament to the resilience of a Deathworlder whose blood was tempered by worlds far crueler than Kryn 9. Word of Yannick's feat spread through the outpost, igniting a spark of hope amid despair. His catch not only supplemented their meager food supplies, but symbolized the indomitable spirit that no technology or storm could extinguish. As Yannick shared his bounty, the alien scientists began to reconsider their own fears, inspired by the humans' grit and tenacity. The frozen planet still held many secrets, and survival would demand more than instruments and calculations. It would require courage, adaptation, and a profound respect for the unforgiving world they inhabited. Yet, beneath the surface of this fragile hope, darker questions loomed. The sudden, unprecedented drop in temperature was no mere natural anomaly. The planet itself was shifting, its ancient geothermal heart faltering, its fragile balance unraveling. If Kryn 9's icy grip tightened further, no suit, no generator, no Deathworlder's endurance would be enough to save the outpost or its inhabitants. As the wind howled through the ice spires, carrying whispers of forgotten cataclysms, Yannick and his fellow survivors faced a truth as cold and sharp as the frozen lake beneath their feet. Survival here would demand more than strength. It would demand confronting the primal forces that governed life and death on this harsh, beautiful world. Yannick's eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the vast expanse of the frozen lake that stretched beyond the reinforced windows of the research outpost like a crystal desert. The ice was a thick, unyielding barrier, shimmering with an otherworldly translucence that seemed to pulse faintly under the weight of the planet's cold breath. To the alien scientists, many of whom had never encountered true winter, the lake was an impossible frontier, a solid barrier that locked away life beneath a frozen tomb. They watched nervously as Yannick prepared for what they considered madness, his bare hands cracking and bleeding under the assault of biting frost even before he stepped into the blizzard. To them, the cold was a silent executioner. To Yannick, it was an old adversary, one he had faced and bested many times before. The temperature gauges continued to plummet, triggering cascading failures in the outpost's power grid and life support systems. Panic erupted as airlocks froze, communication arrays sputtered, and heat exchangers groaned under the strain. The alien crews clamored for retreat, for evacuation, for abandoning the site to the merciless cold. But Yannick moved with a resolute calm, his every motion calculated, his mind locked into a survival rhythm that the others could not understand. Wrapping his hands in coarse strips torn from his own jacket, he stepped out onto the frozen lake's surface, feeling the ice crack and shift beneath his feet. His breath was a plume of smoke that vanished instantly into the gale, and pain flared like fire in his fingertips as they pressed against the ice's brittle skin. Drawing on instincts honed through years on scorching death worlds, Yannick searched for fractures-thin spots where the ice was vulnerable, where the heat below might still seep through. His fingers numbed and bled, skin splitting as he traced the faint vibrations of underwater currents. The alien scientists peered from the safety of the outpost, their faces pale and eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. They saw a creature who seemed impervious to nature's harshest sentence, a human who defied all their expectations and fears. Hours passed as Yannick's hands probed and tore at the ice, until finally, a crack spiderwebbed outward and a shard of frozen crystal was shattered, revealing a dark, frigid pool beneath. Without hesitation, Yannick plunged his hand into the icy water. The shock was immediate and violent, a burning cold that threatened to seize his arm and drag him into unconsciousness. But his grip was iron, his will unwavering. Slowly, he began to fish, his hands moving with practiced precision, snaring the slick, hardy fish that lurked beneath ancient species adapted to the extreme cold, their flesh a vital resource for the starving outpost. Each catch was a small victory, a lifeline thrown across the abyss of despair that had gripped the station. The aliens inside the outpost watched in stunned silence as Yannick defied the frozen wasteland, proving that even in the coldest silence, life could be wrested with bare hands and unbreakable spirit. But the frozen lake was more than a source of food. It was a symbol of endurance and hope in a world that seemed bent on death. As the temperature continued to fall and systems faltered, Yannick's feet rekindled a fragile flame of determination among the crew. It reminded them that survival here demanded more than technology. It demanded courage, adaptability, and an acceptance of the planet's brutal rhythms. Yet even as they celebrated, an uneasy truth hung heavy in the air. The drop in temperature was accelerating beyond any known natural cycle. Crin 9's frozen heart was faltering, and if its balance shattered completely, no amount of will or skill could save them from the endless winter that awaited. Chapter 2. The Icy Grip Titans and the Deathworlder's Resolve. The cold that gripped Crin 9 was no ordinary chill. It was a slow, merciless strangulation of all that was alive and vital. In the weeks following the terrifying plunge in temperature, the research outpost had become a desperate sanctuary caught between survival and oblivion. The alien scientists, accustomed to many harsh worlds, but never one as unyielding as this, scrambled to adapt their fragile technology against the ever-increasing frostbite of the planet's atmosphere. The outpost's power systems strained under the relentless demand for heat, their fuel stores dwindling, and emergency protocols stretched thin. Communication arrays buzzed and faltered, attempts to call for aid met with static and silence. It became painfully clear no help would come, and the outpost would have to survive alone, or not at all. In this crucible of ice and fear, Yannick Holloway's presence was a beacon of defiant hope. Unlike the other species, whose biology and culture had not prepared them for such extremes, Yannick was a Deathworlder, molded by generations of ancestors who had survived the galaxy's most brutal crucibles. His body adapted naturally to extremes. His blood thickened with antifreeze proteins, his skin toughened against frostbite, and his mind sharpened by the unyielding will to endure. To the alien crew, his barehanded fishing in the frozen lake was not just an act of survival, but a living demonstration of the human capacity to transcend limitations. Yet even Yannick understood that this was a moment unlike any before, a planetary shift that threatened not only their food supply, but the very fabric of the environment. As the temperature plunged further into incomprehensible lows, the lake that Yannick had fished with such skill and courage became a frozen expanse of glittering ice so thick it resonated with the planet's ancient heartbeat. Yannick's attempts to find new fishing spots met with increasing frustration as the water beneath the ice shrank and the geothermal vents that had sustained pockets of life grew dimmer. The aquatic creatures, remnants of a once vibrant ecosystem, dwindled and withdrew into dark refuges where even Yannick's reach could not follow. Meanwhile, frost crept like a living thing through the outpost's corridors, painting walls and instruments with delicate crystalline patterns that whispered of impending doom. The alien scientists wrestled with their own limitations, both technical and psychological. Dravnix, a tall, chitinous Matari biologist, had spent his entire life studying extremophiles but found himself powerless against the relentless cold that crept into his veins. Volians, whose lithe forms were adapted for humid jungles, now struggled to function as the outpost's atmosphere thickened with icy mist. The harsh reality was that their advanced suits and bio-enhancements were designed for extremes, but not for a Deathworld's unforgiving grasp intensified by an unprecedented planetary event. As the temperature dropped below even the most conservative predictions, fear morphed into panic, a terror of being trapped, frozen alive in the unforgiving silence of Crin 9's winter. Yet amid this growing despair, Yannick's resolve hardened. One night, As the outpost huddled together in failing warmth, he proposed a plan that was both bold and terrifying. To venture beyond the perimeter and seek out geothermal vents deep beneath the glacier's surface, places where heat still pulsed with the planet's core and where life might yet cling. It was a journey fraught with peril. The external temperature hovered near absolute zero, storms battered with furious winds, and the ice itself groaned ominously as if warning intruders away. But the alternative was slow death from starvation and suffocation. With no time to lose, Yannick gathered a small team of scientists willing to brave the unknown and engineers desperate for solutions and set out into the frozen wastes, their suits barely adequate against the wrath of Kryn 9. The journey was a harrowing trial of endurance and willpower. Traversing the shifting ice fields required constant vigilance. Hidden crevasses threatened to swallow them whole, and the howling blizzard reduced visibility to mere meters. Yannick's Deathworlder instincts kept them moving steadily, knowing when to rest, when to push forward, and how to conserve precious heat and energy. Days blurred into nights, though on Kryn 9 the concept of day was itself a faint memory under the constant shadow of winter. The team communicated through bursts of encrypted signals, their voices muffled behind layers of protective gear. With each step deeper into the glacier's heart, the air grew colder, but faint traces of warmth flickered ahead, a promise of life hidden beneath the ice. Finally, after what felt like an eternity trapped in frozen isolation, they reached the geothermal vents. Here, the ice melted into steaming pools of liquid heat, spewing mineral-rich waters that created pockets of surreal life amidst the desolation. Strange bioluminescent plants clung to rocks, and resilient microbes thrived in the warm, sulfurous waters. Most remarkably, hardy aquatic creatures darted through the pools, descendants of the very fish Yannick had once caught with bare hands through the frozen lake's thin cracks. These creatures had adapted not only to the extreme cold, but to the harsh chemical environment, their biology a testament to nature's resilience. Yannick and the team set up a makeshift base near the vents, harvesting heat and food to sustain the outpost's dwindling population. Using advanced but portable bioreactors, they began to replicate the vent's ecosystem, hoping to create a sustainable source of nourishment and oxygen. The alien scientists, initially skeptical, began to see the potential of this natural sanctuary, their fears gradually giving way to cautious optimism. Yannick's barehanded fishing had become a symbol of survival, but this new foothold beneath the ice was a chance to rewrite their fate. Yet, the growing warmth came with warnings. The vents, while life-giving, were unstable. The planet's core trembled beneath their feet, subtle vibrations signaling tectonic shifts. The ice groaned louder, and mysterious cracks snaked across the glacier's surface, threatening to collapse the fragile habitat. The team worked tirelessly to monitor the planet's changing geology, fearing that Kryn 9's deathly winter was only the prelude to a greater upheaval, one that might shatter the ice and bury them all beneath tons of frozen rock. Back at the outpost, the temperature continued to drop, systems failing one after another. The alien scientists, inspired by Yannick's leadership and indomitable spirit, rallied to maintain the fragile lifeline. They pooled their expertise, adapting equipment and combining technologies in unprecedented ways to stave off disaster. Their collaboration transcended species and culture, forging bonds stronger than any cold could sever. Yannick's presence was the catalyst, a reminder that survival was not merely about technology, but about resilience, courage, and hope in the face of overwhelming odds. As the second brutal cycle of Kryn 9's winter descended, the outpost had become a beacon of life amidst the frozen silence. Yannick, fishing with his bare hands through thin cracks in the ice near the vents, was no longer a lone figure of reckless courage, but a symbol of humanity's indomitable will, a Deathworlder who had taught aliens to survive in the coldest hellscape the galaxy had ever seen. But the planet's secrets were far from exhausted, and as tectonic pressures built beneath the ice, a deeper mystery awaited, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about Kryn 9, survival, and the fragile thread of life itself. Chapter 3. Beneath the Ice, Secrets Stir. The relentless cold of Kryn 9 was no longer merely a physical force. It had become a living entity that shaped every aspect of existence on the planet's bleak surface. For the outpost's inhabitants, the battle against the frost was no longer simply a fight for survival. It had become a journey into the unknown heart of the world itself. The icy crust beneath their feet was not just a barrier, but a vast and ancient archive, a frozen tomb preserving secrets that had slumbered for millennia beneath the glacial sheets. Yannick Holloway, the Deathworlder whose bare-handed fishing had sparked new hope among the alien scientists and engineers, found himself drawn inexorably toward these hidden mysteries as much as the need to sustain life. His experience on hostile worlds told him that where there was life, there was history, and where there was history, there were answers. In the weeks after establishing their precarious foothold near the geothermal vents, the research team began deploying sophisticated probes designed to penetrate the ice and map the vast, subglacial environment beneath the frozen lake. These were not ordinary lakes. They were colossal subterranean seas, warmed by the planet's core, but locked away from the surface by kilometers of dense ice. The probes, equipped with sonar, chemical sensors, and imaging devices, revealed cavernous networks of tunnels and chambers filled with curious ecosystems, their existence hinting at evolutionary wonders that defied earthly logic. Bioluminescent algae clung to mineral walls. Strange crustacean-like creatures with translucent shells skittered across rocky floors, and massive, slow-moving leviathans stirred in the deep waters. Their presence felt more often than seen in the faint ripples of the liquid abyss. Yannick, alongside Volians and Matari biologists, studied the data with growing fascination and a mix of apprehension. The biology of Crin 9's aquatic life suggested an extraordinary adaptation to environmental extremes. Genetic analyses revealed sequences that encoded antifreeze proteins, rapid cellular repair mechanisms, and energy production systems that utilized geothermal and chemical gradients rather than sunlight. These creatures were not simply surviving, they were thriving in isolation, in a world where everything above was frozen death. For the alien scientists, this was a revelation. For Yannick, it was a confirmation that life found a way even in the harshest corners of the galaxy. Yet beneath this scientific wonder lay deeper questions. The probes detected unusual electromagnetic signals emanating from certain cavern clusters, bursts of coherent energy that hinted at an intelligence beyond the biological. Some hypothesized these were natural geological phenomena, while others whispered of something more ancient and sentient lurking in the depths. Yannick, whose instincts had been sharpened by years surviving hostile environments, was drawn to these anomalies with a mix of caution and resolve. He knew that the planet had tested every living creature it touched, and that such signals could be warnings or calls to those who dared to listen. The frozen silence of the planet's surface was shattered one night by an event that would redefine the expedition's purpose. A violent tremor rippled through the glacier, the ice cracking and groaning as seismic forces shifted beneath. The outpost's alarms wailed, throwing the crew into frantic action as sections of the ice cracked dangerously close to their habitat. In the chaotic aftermath, a fissure opened in the frozen lake, revealing a vast vertical shaft plunging deep into the darkness below. Through this opening, heated steam hissed upward, carrying with it mineral-rich waters and strange, unidentifiable particles that shimmered in the outpost's floodlights. The event was both terrifying and exhilarating, a sudden invitation to explore the planet's hidden core and the mysteries it might hold. Yannick volunteered immediately to lead a descent team into the fissure. Armed with advanced environmental suits and tethered to the surface by reinforced cables, he and his team rappelled down into the abyss, their lights cutting through the thick vapor and darkness. The air grew warmer and more humid as they descended, carrying hints of sulfur and metallic scents that were alien, yet strangely familiar. The walls of the fissure were etched with crystalline formations that pulsed with faint, rhythmic glows, as if alive with a slow heartbeat. As they reached the bottom, they discovered a cavernous chamber filled with geothermal pools, their waters swirling with vibrant colors from dissolved minerals and bioluminescent organisms. It was in this subterranean sanctuary that the team made a discovery that shook them to their core, a colossal structure embedded in the rock, ancient and alien. Covered in strange symbols and composed of a material that shimmered with iridescent hues, The artifact defied all known science and archaeology. It appeared to be a relic from a civilization far older than any recorded in galactic history, a testament to a sentient presence that had once thrived beneath Kryn 9's ice. The object emitted a low-frequency hum that resonated with the geothermal energy of the chamber, suggesting it was not merely a monument, but a functioning mechanism, a beacon, or perhaps a machine with a purpose lost to time. Yannick's team immediately set to work analyzing the structure, their excitement tempered by the weight of uncertainty. The artifact's glyphs could not be deciphered, but preliminary scans indicated a form of encoded knowledge, possibly a communication device or an archive. The implications were staggering. Kryn 9 was not just a hostile world, but a repository of ancient alien history, perhaps even a gateway to understanding the origins of life and intelligence in this sector of space. For the alien scientists and for Yannick, this revelation transformed their mission from mere survival to one of discovery, a chance to connect with a past that transcended millennia and species. Back at the outpost, tensions ran high as the cold continued its relentless advance, threatening to overwhelm the fragile sanctuary. Supplies were stretched thin, morale wavered, and the ever-present danger of structural collapse loomed. Yet the discovery beneath the ice brought a renewed sense of purpose. The crew united in a determination to unlock the secrets of the artifact and to endure the planet's icy wrath. Yannick's barehanded fishing, once seen as reckless bravado, was now symbolic of humanity's tenacity in the face of cosmic adversity. His leadership forged bonds of trust and respect across species lines, reminding all that survival was intertwined with the courage to seek understanding even in the darkest depths. But Kryn 9 was far from yielding all its secrets. The deeper tremors that had opened the fissure were but the surface expression of tectonic forces shifting beneath the planet's crust. Unseen, enormous glaciers moved inexorably, grinding against ancient rock formations and creating unstable fault lines. The planet itself seemed restless, as if awakening from a long slumber, and the artifact, silent yet powerful, was somehow connected to this stirring. The team grappled with a new urgency to decipher the alien relic's purpose before Kryn 9's ice unleashed devastation that could wipe out the outpost and all who clung to life there. As the chapter closed on the frozen planet's unyielding night, the frozen lake below shimmered faintly under layers of ice and shadow, concealing ancient mysteries, new dangers, and a fragile hope carried by a Deathworlder's bare hands and an alliance of determined explorers. The story of survival was far from over, it was merely deepening, descending into the unknown as Kryn 9's icy grip tightened around them all. Chapter 4: The Shattered Ice and the Birth of a New Dawn. The frozen expanse of Kryn 9 had never seemed more alive or more threatening. The planet's icy heart pulsed with unrest as tectonic forces shifted beneath kilometers of solid ice, threatening to undo the fragile sanctuary that Yannick Holloway and the alien coalition had painstakingly carved from the unforgiving frost. The vast subterranean fissure they had discovered beneath the frozen lake had widened, groaning and cracking with the weight of ancient glaciers grinding against one another, creating a symphony of destruction that echoed through the cold silence. The outpost's alarms screamed into the endless night, warning of imminent collapse even as the sky itself seemed to darken under roiling storms of ice and snow. Yannick stood at the edge of the observation deck, eyes locked on the shimmering rift that split the frozen surface like a wound bleeding steam and molten mineral light. The Deathworlder's bare hands, once plunged into the icy waters in defiance of the planet's lethal cold, now clenched the railing with a steady grip. Around him, the alien scientists and engineers moved with grim determination, racing to salvage what they could of the outpost's dwindling resources and to prepare for the worst. But beneath the surface tension of survival was something more profound, a recognition that Kryn 9 was not merely a hostile world to be endured, but a living, breathing entity whose ancient memory was awakening. And at its heart lay the artifact, the alien relic from a civilization lost to time which had begun to hum with renewed power, its cryptic glyphs glowing faintly, as if responding to the planet's turmoil. The seismic upheaval was more than natural disaster. It was a catalyst, a summons to confront the intertwining of life, history, and the cosmos itself. The artifact, once silent and inscrutable, now projected shimmering holographic patterns into the icy airstar maps that spanned impossible distances, equations that bent the known laws of physics, and symbols that resonated deep within the minds of those who beheld them. The alien languages were deciphered at last, revealing the story of a civilization that had transcended physical form, merging with the primal energies of the universe to become guardians of cosmic balance. Kryn, 9 had been their sanctuary and their prison, a crucible that tested their knowledge and humility. Now, it was humanity and its alien allies who faced the ultimate trial. Yannick's team descended once more into the depths beneath the glacier, navigating the treacherous fissure that yawned like a maw toward the planet's molten core. Each step was a step into the unknown where warmth and life intertwined with ancient technology, where biology and machine blurred into a singular consciousness. They reached the heart of the artifact, a crystalline core embedded in the planet's mantle, pulsating with raw, etheric energy that seemed to connect not just to Kryn, 9, but to the very fabric of space and time. Here, the Deathworlder and the alien scientists interfaced with the relic, their minds flooded with visions of creation and destruction, of civilizations born and lost in the cosmic dance. As the ice above threatened to collapse, a profound understanding emerged. Survival on Kryn, 9 was no longer about mere endurance, but about transformation. The planet and its secrets demanded not submission but partnership, a joining of species and spirits to wield the ancient energies responsibly. Yannick, whose bare-handed fishing had been a spark of defiance against death itself, now stood as a bridge between worlds, a symbol of resilience and hope forged in the harshest crucible. Together, they activated the artifact's core, releasing a wave of energy that began to stabilize the tectonic unrest, healing fractures and renewing the geothermal veins that sustained life. Back on the surface, as the storms raged and ice groaned, the outpost endured. The alien scientists, inspired by Yannick's courage and the artifact's awakening, rallied to rebuild and reimagine their existence on Kryn 9. They forged new technologies from ancient knowledge, blending biology and quantum mechanics, creating sustainable ecosystems beneath domes that shimmered with life. Communication with the Galactic Accord was restored, carrying news of their survival and the discovery of Kryn 9's true nature. The Deathworlder's tale, the man who fished frozen lakes with bare hands, became legend, a testament to the indomitable spirit that could turn despair into triumph. The planet itself seemed to breathe anew, its icy veil softened by the warmth of geothermal renewal and the light of discovery. Kryn 9 was no longer a death world but a birthplace of a new era where ancient alien wisdom and human tenacity converged to write a story of survival, unity, and cosmic destiny. As Yannick gazed at the horizon, where glaciers met starlight, he knew that their journey was just beginning, a journey beyond the frozen wasteland into the vast, uncharted realms of the galaxy and the boundless potential of life itself. Chapter 4: The Shattered Ice and the New Dawn of Kryn 9. The frozen silence of Kryn 9 was shattered by a rumble that rolled like thunder beneath the ice sheets, a deep, guttural groan that spoke of the planet's ancient bones shifting after untold millennia. The ice cracked and buckled in great fissures, cleaving the surface in jagged lines that threatened to swallow the outpost whole. The team, battered and exhausted but unbowed, scrambled to secure their equipment and shelter as the very ground beneath them heaved with violent energy. Yannick Holloway, the Deathworlder who had once plunged his bare hands into the frozen lake in defiance of the planet's lethal cold, now stood at the forefront of this crisis, his steady presence a beacon for the ragged crew of alien scientists and engineers who looked to him for guidance amid the chaos. The fissure that had been a hidden crack now became a yawning maw, revealing the steaming geothermal heart of Kryn 9 beneath the ice, a vast cavern of glowing pools and mineral pillars, alive with bioluminescent creatures and thrumming with the planet's restless energy. At the center of this subterranean sanctuary lay the ancient artifact, the alien relic whose inscrutable glyphs and shimmering facets had captivated the team since its discovery. Now, As the planet threatened to rend itself apart, the artifact pulsed with renewed vigor, its light bathing the cavern in shifting hues of blue and violet, casting long shadows that danced across the walls like spirits awakened from a long sleep. Yannick and his companions descended into the depths once more, the weight of the world quite literally pressing upon their shoulders. The air grew thick with heat and the scent of minerals, the eerie glow revealing that this was no mere geological formation, but a nexus of life and technology intertwined in an ancient symbiosis. The artifact, it seemed, was not simply a relic, but a living core of power, a conduit for energies that transcended time and space, a beacon calling out to any who might listen. As Yannick approached, his senses were overwhelmed by a surge of etheric energy that rippled through his body, connecting him to the planet and the artifact in a way that defied explanation. It was a communion of consciousness, a melding of mortal will with cosmic force. The alien scientists, though awestruck, were also filled with apprehension. The artifact's energies were vast and unpredictable, capable of miracles or devastation depending on the wisdom of those who wielded them. The messages encoded in its glyphs spoke of balance between destruction and creation, power and restraint, life and death. The Elithrians, the ancient civilization who had once called Kryn, 9 home, had transcended the physical to become guardians of cosmic harmony, but their pride had led to catastrophe. Their warnings echoed through the artifact's light. Unchecked ambition could unravel the very fabric of existence. Yannick understood that humanity and its allies now stood at a similar crossroads. With great care, the team initiated a synchronization sequence designed to harmonize their technologies with the artifact's core. The process was delicate and fraught with risk. Too much interference could trigger catastrophic feedback, but too little would squander the opportunity for salvation. The air hummed with electric tension as systems aligned, energies flowed, and the artifact's light deepened into a steady, warm pulse. Across the planet, the violent tremors began to subside, fissures sealing as geothermal vents reignited with life-giving heat. The planet breathed again, its icy grip softened by the ancient technology awakened by the courage of a Deathworlder and the unity of an alien coalition. Back at the outpost, the crew emerged from the storm's shadow to witness a transformation. The harsh winds that had howled for cycles gave way to gentler breezes, and the relentless cold softened into a biting but bearable chill. Life bloomed anew in carefully cultivated biomes, where genetically engineered plants and resilient fauna thrived under protective domes powered by geothermal energy. Yannick's barehanded fishing at the frozen lake had been a spark that ignited a fire of survival. But now a new era dawned, one where technology and nature, science and spirit, intertwined to heal a world once condemned to death. The Galactic Accord received transmissions of the team's survival and discoveries, inspiring hope across the stars. Yannick's story, the man who braved frozen waters with bare hands, who faced death itself and emerged victorious, became legend, a symbol of resilience and unity in the face of cosmic adversity. Yet, beyond the tales and triumphs lay a deeper truth. Kryn, 9 was a reminder that survival was never guaranteed, that life was a fragile dance on the edge of oblivion, and that true strength lay not just in endurance, but in the wisdom to wield power with humility. As Yannick stood once more overlooking the shimmering frozen lake, now alive with the soft glow of bioluminescent life beneath its surface, he felt a profound connection to the planet and his companions. The cold that had once threatened to claim them all had forged a bond stronger than ice or steel, a bond between species, between past and future, between mortality and the infinite unknown. The journey of Kryn, 9 was far from over, but its story was now one of hope, of transformation, and of a new dawn born from shattered ice and unyielding spirit. The stars above glittered cold and distant, but within the heart of Kryn, 9 and the souls of those who dared to endure, a light burned brighter than any frozen night, an eternal flame of life, discovery, and the endless journey toward the horizon of tomorrow.